The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is a primitive camper's paradise. The most visited national park in the United States, it has over 100 backcountry campsites spread throughout its 522,000 acres. While many of its campsites are accessible on foot across the park's 800 miles of hiking trails, a handful of its sites are positioned on the park's southern border, Fontana Lake. Welcome to Backcountry Campsite 66 on Nolan Creek. Welcome to Green Ridge Outdoor Adventures. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park is one of the most remote areas on the East Coast, which makes it an ideal place to backcountry camp. The first step in reserving one of these campsites is obtaining a backcountry permit at smokypermits.mps.gov. Scroll to the bottom of the page and click this button. The next screen outlines parking information, rules and regulations, and states that general backcountry permits are $8 per person per night. A permit can also be obtained in person at the Sugarlands Visitor Center near Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Next is the backcountry permit application, so choose the number in your party and your number of stop. You're then brought to a map of the park for you to select the campsite you wish to reserve. Upon selecting your campsite, a reservation calendar for that campsite is shown with every date available for the next month. Click on the date you want to reserve and then select the number of nights you want to camp. You'll then be asked to confirm your trip itinerary, and then you'll be asked to enter your personal and payment information on the next couple screens. Once you've paid, a PDF of your backcountry permit will be emailed to you, and you're asked to carry it with you at all times during your camping trip. On the permit campsite map, the sites in blue are the handful of backcountry campsites only accessible by boat. This is because a large portion of the park's southern border is Fontana Lake. And Backcountry Campsite 66 is one of the few sites that can be accessed by boat and by hiking. The closest boat ramp to Campsite 66 is the Flat Branch boating access at about 2.7 miles. To see our paddle from Flat Branch to Campsite 66, click on the link above. Site 66 can also be accessed from Nolan Creek Trail, south of Lakeview Drive. The trail runs a mile south from the trailhead parking lot, crossing over Nolan Creek 4 times to the campsite. In the summer, the southern end of Nolan Creek Trail is underwater, making it nearly impossible to get to the site without getting wet. Because of lower lake levels in colder months, Nolan Creek Trail provides easy access to Campsite 66. This campsite, I'd say we're about 20-30 feet above where our kayak is. Not a lot of flat ground, huh?
A spot there and a spot here.
We've got plenty of firewood, so that's good. So it looks like a pretty decent site.
Beautiful though.
It is. The one thing that is a constant at every backcountry campsite are food storage cables. The system of cables and pulleys allows campers to safely raise all food and scented items in the air, out of the reach of animals, but mostly bears. Campsite 66's cables were between the water and the fire ring, which is another constant at these backcountry campsites, with most of them being made with rocks by campers. When we were at 66, the firing was huge, but mainly because it was on a steeply inclined slope.
Josh has his typical campfire duty.
With about 3 to 4 tent and hammock spots at this site, the sloped incline at this campsite made it hard to find a place to sit around the fire. Since the campsite is only accessible by boat, it makes for a great place to swim, and there was even a rope swing across from it. While we were only there for 3 nights, we only had a couple of boats come up to Nolan Creek, so you still kind of felt isolated. Campsite 66 is also located close to several historical points of interest off Lakeview Drive. Since we were there in the summer, we paddled up Nolan Creek and hiked the 1 mile north to Lakeview Drive. Once on Lakeview Drive, Stiles Cemetery is less than a mile east, and the Road to Nowhere Tunnel is less than a mile to the west.
God almighty.
It's way down there.
And look how low the railing is.
The cool air coming out of this tunnel is amazing. It's like air conditioning.
Yeah, it is.
To see the videos of those 2 areas, click on the Fontana Lake playlist link above. Backcountry Campsite 66, called Nolan Creek in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, was one of our most favorite campsites that we've been to on Fontana Lake.